Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good night. It really depends on the place of the world you are now staying. And well, you see that now I moved to Maryland and the city of Chevy Chase, and I have a really nice guest, and by the name of Brandon Leach. He's the founder of the Collegiate Institute for Middle East Affairs and also the vice president of the campus network in the Campus Global Board. So welcome to the show. And let me say something before we start with this one. And this is a program sponsored by the German Jewish Museum in Santiago, Chile, Cafe with Cabana. Hello and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited.
Very good. And well, let me go first because when I met you the first time, I was really surprised when I saw Institute for Middle East Affairs. I said, how come Brandon is it's looking towards this Middle East affairs? I mean, you're a young guy and you're in college still, but also, I mean, founder of this institute, it means something. And you're trying to do something like a building to strengthen understanding with other college students. Is that right?
Yeah. And so I've actually always had a passion for learning about the Middle East ever since I was a little kid. My mother, she taught me a lot of Jewish history, which invariably involved Israel. And as I grew a little bit older, I became very interested to know what's going on in the rest of the region. And the Middle East, it's a pretty big place. And so I, from a young age, really was learning about the history, and I just was fascinated by it. And so by the time I got to college, focusing in my studies on the Middle East just seemed like the right thing to do and the right thing for me. And I've not regretted it in the slightest. And that passion has driven me to create what you've mentioned, the Collegiate Institute for Middle East Affairs, or the acronym is CIMA. And at CIMA, we are very committed to doing two major things. And so actually, before I tell you what we're committed to, let me just say how we operate, which is we are a think tank that works at the undergraduate level, and we provide a lot of opportunities, professional opportunities to students who are interested and driven in learning about the Middle East and foreign policy. And so they have opportunities to become published authors by working with us, doing research with us, getting to hear from all sorts of really amazing speakers on different campuses here in the States, and really just receiving all sorts of opportunities along those lines. And our second is to really provide a space for students to have those difficult conversations on Middle East issues and have them in a respectful way and in a way that we can come down, sit at a table, disagree with each other, and then get up knowing more than when we sat down. That's something that's incredibly important to me, especially in a day and age when we're having a little more trouble successfully doing that, especially on campus. And so that's part of really the big passion on why I started this in the first place. And I've been incredibly excited at both the support I've received and the successes so far.
And when we're talking about Middle East, which are the countries you are, this think tank is looking towards?
So what I would say is we're pretty broad when it comes to Middle East issues, in that, and I should say we're very much the new kid on the block. And, I've had the real fortune of starting this up actually this very summer in 2024. And so we're still early on the event stage. And what I would say is we're very much issues based, and depending on each campus, it's going to be different what we focus on. And we're somewhat decentralized in that our model is we have different chapters at different universities in the United States. And each chapter is then supported by the 501c3 or the nonprofit organization that is CIMA. And we support students at different campuses to be able to have those professional opportunities. And so students at one campus might be a little more interested in issues in Africa. And so maybe they're really interested in Sudan and spending more time learning about that. Whereas students at another campus might be a little more interested in what's going on in the Gulf region and are spending more time there. So it's hard for me to tell you, we have this one focus. I know a really big thing that we're looking at sort of launching is looking at religious tolerance in the Middle East and looking at actually the words of Prophet Muhammad and many Christian scholars who used to live in the Middle East, as well as Judaic scholars, and what they all have to say back in ancient times of how the different religious figures actually saw each other's religions. And I can say it was in a more positive light in what we're trying to do. And especially today, when there's a lack of tolerance, we think that that's one of the best things we could be focusing on.
And we are talking about lack of tolerance. And this is wide. I mean, could be in the East, could be in the West, because tolerance is something that it is really missing, not only in the US, I would say worldwide. And about tolerance, how do you work in tolerance? Because you can be talking about the Middle East, you can be talking about Sudan or Africa. And how do you manage tolerance when you are, sitting with someone, there's no tolerance?
Well, listen, at the end of the day, we've got to sort of, let me start here. What's really incredibly important is to be able to sit down and talk to one another as human beings. And the lack of tolerance comes down to just the fact that there's a really severe level of dehumanization that happens on college campuses. When I say that, it seems very doom and gloom, but my organization and the success of my organization is a product of the fact that it's not all doom and gloom, and that there are a majority of students who have not succumbed to this severe level of dehumanization that you generally are seeing on the newsreels. Yes, it happens. Yes, it's a problem. And unfortunately, those people who have dehumanized a lot of people are the ones really dominating the headlines. And so it seems really terrible. But thankfully, the extremes are the ones who dominate the headlines, for better or worse, which means the rest of the people are not on the extremes. And so that's who I'm targeting. And I don't seek to have a conversation with someone who's already got incredibly extreme values that go against basic humanity, because that's not a good place to start a conversation. But what I want to do is sit down with the person who has a ton of passion and about the Middle East, or has a ton of passion about these issues, but just doesn't see a productive place to put it. That's who we can reach. And that audience is much bigger than people generally realize. And it's that audience which is what I'm tapping into. And so far, I've had wonderful conversations. And what's been super easy is seemingly to write off a much larger segment of the population than we really should be. And so how do I have a conversation? Well, it's figuring out who I'm going to have the conversation with first. And then once we've targeted that down, it's actually coming to the table, reminding them, hey, I'm human, you're human. Our views might be a little bit different, but at the end of the day, we can learn from each other. And so far, that's worked pretty darn well.
Wow, that's nice. Let me go to the other one, because you are vice president on the campus network in the Campus Global Board. I mean, looks like a nice title. Let me go deep into what is the day-to-day base. What are you doing there?
Yeah, so the Campus Global Board on the American Jewish Committee was started about 2 years ago now, and I had the wonderful opportunity of being on the inaugural board. And so something that I'm really passionate about is I like to think I've got a few good ideas, including, and I put SEMA as one of them, but I'm very well aware that I live in both a nation, and we together live in a world with a lot of young people with a lot of really good ideas, many of them better than anything I'm going to come up with. And so what I thought about is, how do I get those ideas to the forefront? And thankfully, the American Jewish Committee put some faith in me and allowed me to work with them to create a new college program called Campus Connect now. The original name was Campus Network. We've switched it over to connect with more people. Bad pun, but anyway, Campus Connect is designed to connect a lot of different students from campuses across the world to be able to talk to one another, learn from one another, share with one another, and especially when dealing with anti-Semitism, look at best practices, but also go beyond reacting to issues that might come from the other side. And rather than reacting to anti-Semitism, creating a place that is designed to build up our own community so that when anti-Semitism does happen, we're stronger and we're stronger to face it. And so that's the really core concept. And I've really had a wonderful time getting to build it up. And, I'm incredibly excited to be able to say that now my role on the campus board is going to transition a little bit as I'm now starting up with my own nonprofit. And I'm incredibly, incredibly excited to say that I've been able to hand off Campus Connect to someone I consider even brighter than me. And I have really full faith that he'll be able to pull this through and take the vision and, run with it. But at the end of the day, just the hope is to create a place that can empower more students and their voices so that they can take their ideas and have similar experiences that I've been blessed to have and take it to an organization that wants to help them and will help them.
And when you're talking about Campus Connect around the world, is that you are also targeting to people, whatever, in the US, Europe, Latin America, and other places?
Yeah, so unlike my nonprofit, Campus Connect is going to be anywhere where the American Jewish Committee has a presence, and where they don't, it's going to be working with local organizations on the ground to empower those students and connect them better with American Jewish Committee's resources, as well as the resources of those on the ground. And so exactly how that's going to play out is still getting built out, to be honest. And it's a very new concept, new program. But the general idea and core concept is this goes beyond just America, and this is a worldwide thing. And us as Jews, we have relatives everywhere. And so it's allowing us to connect with each other and really learn from one another because, I had the wonderful experience working in Brussels last summer, and I learned so much about communities there and how different and similar we are. And so that's an experience I had that I'm blessed to have. And what I really wanted to be able to do is also foster a greater interchange between, say, European Jews and American Jews, South American Jews, maybe even Chilean Jews, and American Jews and European Jews. Let's connect them all together.
And with this kind of experience, you will get, a really great power in order to let everybody know topics from different ways. That's a good to share knowledge. It's very good. Let me go now to the role of the Qatar Foundation, because all the public is looking that when you see all the news and the headlines and the titles of the newspapers, whatever, or in the social media, campus and campus and campus and campus, and when you go there and see why is this one, and where do they get the money, and then you start digging and digging and digging. And there's, something in common. It's the Qatar Foundation for Education, which is something that is, funding this kind of riots or whatever. I can tell. What is this about when you are in the US and you are feeling this?
Yeah, so I think what's definitely important to note is just, take a look at some of the figures. And so colleges and universities in the States have received almost $55 billion from foreign sources. And of the $55 billion, about 1/4 of them have originated in the Middle East. And of that $13 billion, 83% of it has come from Qatar, which is the leading donor, Saudi Arabia and the UAE. And so you really have this really massive influx of money that comes to these American institutions, the college campuses. And of that 83%, $6 billion comes from Qatar. And that foundation you mentioned, it's a non-profit that is run primarily by Qatari government officials. And it being a non-profit then means technically it's not a government donor, and which would then be under American law, a whole bunch of other things that then the college would have to be disclosing if they're receiving money from the government. And so it being a foundation, a charitable foundation, then allows universities not to have to disclose certain information. And the information that they do have to disclose, actually, there's been a bit of a scandal because a lot of American universities actually have not disclosed information related to the donations they've received both from Qatar as well as multiple other foreign funders. And like one example actually would be Yale. They supposedly have not reported a few $1 million in Qatari donations. And that's a big problem, and they may even be breaking some laws, the college campuses, in their lack of reporting. Now, there's a bit of a question, which is why would Qatar spend $6 billion donating to American campuses? And so at the end of the day, these countries will always act in their own best interest and in their own, really as what they see as best in their best interest. And so building ties with American campuses, clearly they perceive to be in their best interest. And so there could be a few different reasons for that. One is maybe affecting public opinion, and having more Americans be friendly towards Qatar. I know there's also the speculation because between 2015 and 2020, a lot of institutions that were receiving funding on average had about a 300% higher incident chance of a higher chance of having anti-Semitic incidents compared to those who did not. And
there is a relationship there.
Yeah, and so the question is this because when you look at a lot of the anti-Semitism, it seems like what's worst is at the Ivy League institutions, and at those Ivy League institutions is generally where most of the money is going to. And so there is a question, is this, are these related? Is this a coincidence? I sure as heck am not the person to know that, but it is a very interesting statistic, and it, to me, definitely raises a lot of questions that I would want to have answered. So there's definitely, it can be a little concerning, and it really does raise a lot of questions. I can say that my university generally has handled a lot of issues of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia alike very well, at least in comparison to other universities. They've done a good job. We've had a bit of both, and my university has done, I would say, comparatively very well when you're looking at what's going on at a lot of the other more Ivy League institutions. And I can also say that my university has received a lot of funding from the UAE, as an example. I know there's some areas in our campus that are neat. We actually have the Sharjah Gardens, which is a emirate of the UAE. They have 7 emirates, one of them being Sharjah, and so we have the Sharjah Gardens. And despite this, we've handled it very well. And something I want to say, which also might push back a little bit on, is this money going directly into ways that increase anti-Semitism, is if that is within their best interest, they're not going to be doing it in any way directly. And sorry, I just need a little bit of water. But
it's hot.
It would go against their best interests. So say they, for whatever reason, would want to cause anti-Semitism on American college campuses, it would go against their best interest if they ever were to be caught. And to do something that big, that direct, could cause so many issues for Qatar that I struggle to think that that's their direct motive. And I think it's something a little more complex than that. And exactly what that is going to be pure speculation on my part. But what I can say with finality is there's a lot of money coming in from Qatar, from that foundation, to American college campuses. And I can say I don't really know why, and I don't know what the purpose of this funding really is.
So, I mean, if we have that question, and it's impossible to know the answer now. The only question is that why Qatar, and I would say Qatar Foundation or whatever, what the Qatar government is bringing all this money to the U.S. There should be a reason. I mean, there's something that they are looking for, and I mean, within the next months, maybe we will have an answer, because this is going on, this is a story going on, and we have it in the news, but still we don't have the answer. I hope that we will have the answer in the next few months. And let me go back again to the Middle East affairs, because that institute, I like it very much. And again, you told me that you were studying Arabic?
Yes, yeah. So I study international relations, and my entire focus is foreign policy and international security in the Middle East and North Africa. I've got a secondary focus in global economics, and then I've been taking Arabic as my sort of language focus.
Difficult? Is it difficult?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's definitely been incredibly difficult, but thankfully I really love the language. Otherwise, it might be a little too difficult for me, but I fall in love with the language, and so it makes the difficulty just more rewarding as soon as you complete every small milestone, it feels like a really big jump, and that's partially because it is. But like I said, that makes it all the more rewarding.
Yeah, and let me say something. I mean, ask you something. When you finish school, where do you want to go and work? Because I mean, you're doing many things at your age.
Yeah, it's a great question. I've over this past year been developing SEMA, and I really do truly believe in the mission, in its values, and everything it is that I'm trying to do with it is something I deeply believe in. And my absolute dream is, as I graduate college, to have built this into a nonprofit in which not only can I be getting a salary from, but can really be my job for a little while after I graduate. It's something I'm incredibly committed to, and you know, especially right now as we're living in so many terrible headlines coming from college campuses and all this sort of lack of hope. To me, creating a space where students can learn, which is kind of the point of college, creating a space where they can really learn and discuss and grow together, and also get more professional opportunities and really grow themselves and be more prepared once they leave college. Doing that gives me a lot of hope. It makes me very excited for the future. And if I could have just a small part in really helping these students grow and be better people, I'd be incredibly proud to do that. And so my dream right now is to, build this up after college, really make this sustainable, make this something that's going to last well beyond after I would leave my tenure at SEMA. And so right after college, my dream, I want to keep doing what I'm doing.
Is that right?
That it
Do
is.
you think that you are doing a great job there? I think so, huh?
I'd certainly like to think so, but I'll let other people answer that one for me.
Yes. And how many people is around the SEMA?
Say that one again, I'm sorry?
How many people is around the Institute for Middle East Affairs?
Yeah, so I have a small team that's working with me right now, and my favorite thing to say is the entirety of my team are people smarter than me that have put faith into this project. And so not only does their faith give me immense pride and confidence in my venture, their intelligence definitely is very, very helpful. So that gives me a ton of pride. And I have a small team that's working with me. And then we are currently founding chapters at a few different universities right now. We have one officially at my university, American University.
Sure.
And so we're looking at a few other colleges right now. And so those teams are slowly building up and all that. But we've been able to hold an event or two so far, which has both attracted small groups of students. And so, slowly but surely, we're really starting to grow, and we're taking it one step at a time. And I've just been so incredibly grateful for the amount of people who have really stepped up to not only just say that they might believe in what I'm doing and in many cases believe in me, but have taken that to the other level, to a whole other level, and actually stepped up and started to commit themselves to this. And that's something that I cannot express in words just how grateful I am for.
Great. You also, while we were talking and I was listening to you, you mentioned the word hope. Let's stop on that one and hope for the future months, for next year. Shall we talk a little bit about hope?
Yeah, no, I like to consider myself an optimistic realist. And what does that mean? It means I'm incredibly optimistic for the future. I'm optimistic because I know that there's just so much good in this world, and there's so many people who want to do good. And I'm certainly optimistic that slowly and surely those people are going to have the opportunity to do that good. And, the Jewish value of tikkun olam, spreading light to the world, that there's going to be more and more people who are able to do that. The realistic part of me is that, sure, there's a lot of bad stuff in this world too. And if we want this good to really be felt and to grow, it's going to take a lot of work. And I'm very realistic that it's going to take a lot of work. But I guess that's why I'm starting early. And I'm really pushing myself forward and helping other people do that too. And that's what also makes me so hopeful, is just knowing there's so many people who want to do that. And I'm realistic that all of us are just going to have to put in that work if we want that brighter tomorrow to come. It's going to take a lot of investment, a lot of time, a lot of energy. But I'm so hopeful because I know there's so many people who are willing to put in that time, to put in that investment, put in their energy to really make this world better. And that's what gives me the most hope.
Great. I mean, good words to, we need to finish this program, this show, because we have covered everything. We went to the Middle East, then we came back to the US, then we were talking about the Qatar Foundation, then we were talking about hope. I mean, we have covered a lot in this show, and I would like to thank you, Brandon Leach. I know you will be a really successful guy in the future. I will see you in the headlines in the future, and maybe I will need to knock at your door and say, "Can you give me a minute?" And then you will be very busy because you will be doing many things at the same time. But anyway, thank you very much for the time to come into one coffee with Kavana. We are talking about the hope for next year, for the following years. And thank you very much again. And see you guys in my next show, which will be very nice. A Cafe with Kavana, you can watch it on YouTube channel, and also you can hear Spotify, their podcast over there. So while you are driving back to college, back to your office, whatever, and you are moving around, Spotify will give you the chance to hear this really nice show with Brandon Leach. Thank you very much, and bye now.
Thanks for having me on.